Hello, and thank you for joining the February Economic Development and Industrial Corporation of Boston Board meeting. At this time, the Boston Planning and Development Agency is continuing to host public meetings in a virtual setting for the health, safety, and accessibility of Boston residents. For more information and updates, visit bostonplans.org. The Open Public Meeting Law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcast by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications at Xfinity Channel 24, RCN Channel 13, and Verizon Fios Channel 962. It's also being live streamed at boston.gov/cable. So I'll now take a roll call to begin this meeting. Ms. Downs.
Present.
Mr. Monahan.
Present.
Dr. Landsmark.
Present.
Mr. Miller.
Present.
And I, the chair, Priscilla Rojas, am presiding. So first item on the agenda, request authorization for the approval of the minutes of the January 13th, 2022 meeting. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs.
Aye.
Mr. Monahan.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 2, request authorization to enter into a new lease agreement with Mass Robotics Incorporated for the continued use of Suite 202 and Suite 502 located at 12 Channel Street within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. Maureen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Mass Robotics is a nonprofit company based in Massachusetts with the mission of providing entrepreneurs and innovative robotics automation startups with the space and resources they need to develop, prototype, test, and commercialize their products. Mass Robotics' income is derived from subleasing space to startup companies from sponsorships and grants. In October 2016, the BPDA Board of Directors approved a 5-year lease with 2 5-year option terms for Suite 502 at 12 Channel Street. The lease commenced on December 1st, 2016, and will expire on February 28th, 2022. Mass Robotics currently pays $20.08 per square foot, or $24,688.72 monthly. In May of 2018, the BPDA Board of Directors approved a 44-month lease with 5 2-year options for Suite 202 at 12 Channel Street to be coterminous with the existing lease for Suite 502. Prior to occupancy, Mass Robotics invested more than $3,500,000 into Suite 202 via grants and fundraising efforts. The lease commenced on January 1st, 2019. Mass Robotics currently pays $12 or $29,370 monthly. BPDA staff is now recommending a 10-year coterminous lease for both suites, the single 5-year option term. The lease will commence on March 1st, 2022 and expire on February 29th, 2032. Beginning on March 1st, 2022, the fixed rent for Suite 502 shall be $22.67 per square foot, or $27,869 per month. Fixed rent will increase annually by $1. In consideration for the financial investment made into Suite 202, the fixed rent for the first year shall be $13 per square foot, or $26,515 per month. Beginning on year 2, the fixed rent shall increase to $24.41 per square foot, or $49,786 per month. The fixed rent for Suite 202 will increase annually by $1 beginning on the 3rd year or March 1st, 2024. In the 5-year option term, if the 5-year option term is exercised, Mass Robotics shall pay fixed rent calculated at the fair market value for both suites. For the 10-year term, Mass Robotics will pay a total of $4,008,118 in the fixed rent for Suite 502. For the 10-year term, Mass Robotics will pay $6,575,546 for Suite 202. A total of $10,583,664 will be paid for both suites for the whole 10-year term. At this time, staff recommends that the director be authorized to enter into a new lease with Mass Robotics for the continued use of 12 Channel Street, Suite 202 and 502. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Maureen. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 3, request authorization to advertise and issue a request for qualifications to hire a licensed design consultant to provide design services to upgrade the security systems at 12 Channel Street, 22 Dry Dock Avenue, and 12 Dry Dock Avenue parking garage within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. William.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Today's request is authorization to advertise and issue a request for qualifications pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 7C, to procure a designer to upgrade the building security systems of the 3 buildings located in the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. Those buildings are 12 Channel Street, 22 Dry Dock Ave, and 12 Dry Dock Ave. 12 Channel Street is a 9-story masonry building leased out to several tenants for light industrial, manufacturing, and office uses. 22 Dry Dock Ave is a 3-story masonry building occupied by the agency's real estate department. And 12 Dry Dock Ave is a 5-story public parking garage. Each of these 3 buildings have been identified for needing improvements to the existing building security systems, mainly security cameras, as well as an integrated door access system. The resulting design contract is currently budgeted at $125,000. Plans and specifications will be prepared in accordance with Chapter 149 of the Massachusetts General Laws. The contract will also include bidding assistance, resident engineering services, as well as construction administration services. This request for qualifications would be advertised following the Commonwealth of Massachusetts requirements under Chapter 7C, which governs procurement for design services for vertical construction. This opportunity would also be posted on the BPDA website and bulletin boards, the Boston Herald, the state's Combine system, and marketed with disadvantaged firms and various online trade publications. The design contract would be awarded to the top-ranked designer through a qualifications-based selection process after being brought back to the board for approval. The subsequent construction is currently budgeted in the $500,000 range and is included in the current fiscal year capital budget. It would be publicly bid in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 149, and also be brought back to the board for prior approval. So we're requesting the Secretary be authorized to advertise and issue this request for qualifications. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Right, hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item number 4, request authorization to enter into a 1-year contract with World Education Inc. for professional consultant services in assessing the digital literacy needs of the City of Boston's adult basic education providers in an amount not to exceed $97,384. Sarah.
Yeah, thank you very much to the chair and board members for allowing me to present today. Today, the Office of Workforce Development is seeking the board's approval to select World Education as the contractor to carry out a digital literacy needs assessment of the City of Boston's adult basic education providers. The digital literacy RFP was issued on December 27th following the December 16th board meeting where OWD was authorized by the board to procure professional services to assist the city in assessing the digital literacy needs of a network of Boston adult basic education providers. Based on a review of the 2 proposals received in response to this RFP, OWD recommends World Education, which is a Boston-based nonprofit organization that's nationally recognized for research, evaluation, and demonstration projects in the area of adult education and digital learning. The World Education proposal complied with the core elements and requirements stated in the RFP, and it also demonstrated a complete understanding of the key issues and objectives of the RFP. World Education received the highest technical score of the 2 proposals received, and its fee proposal was also the lowest. The consultant will be contracted for up to 1 year with an estimated contract amount of $97,384 that will be supported by American Rescue Plan Act funds. The anticipated start date is expected to be no later than March 1st, 2022. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
She just lost her Zoom, Madam Chair, so she'll be right back.
We can still take a vote. Okay, Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you. Item number 5, finance update, equitable procurement, and the FY22 second quarter. Michelle.
Hello, good afternoon. Hello, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, Director Golden. I am Michelle Goldberg, the Interim Director of Finance and Chief Procurement Officer at the BPDA. I am here today to present our fiscal year 2022 operating and capital budget, as well as a brief equitable procurement update, neither of which will require a vote, and I'm happy to take questions at the end. Next slide, please. In May 2021, this board approved the BPDA Equitable Procurement Plan. Part of the plan requires that the Director of Finance, who is also the Chief Procurement Officer, provides a quarterly update on the process of equitable procurement efforts in addition to our general finance activities. Next slide, please. The plan has 5 key elements listed on this slide, all designed to break down barriers to opportunities. The BPDA began implementing this plan immediately upon its passage. Sorry, next slide. Thank you. So for some of the key updates, the BPDA procurement team is testing new tracking systems and monitoring our targeted outreach that accompanies each BPDA solicitation. We spent the past summer and fall working through our internal processes and training our recently hired staff. Tonight, I can share that we are prepared to collect data in a very new and exciting way. We started tracking a few key data points in November, as you can see here. And with the help of our Director of Strategy and Business Processes, Megan Rohr, has been able to help us iterate on this effort. This means that our next few presentations will continue to evolve and expand as we build this. Also, outreach muscle. I want to thank specifically Robert Springer, Gisela Soriano, Bill Nickerson, Rebecca Hansen, Dolores Fazio, Morgan McDaniels, Barry Reeves, and others who have contributed to our efforts for outreach. Next slide, please. We can. Thank you. Staff members have been taking on the additional responsibility of preparing slides, customizing presentations, all to participate in some of the events that you see here. We are working on our ability to gather feedback from these events to determine our impact and measure success. Next slide, please. We also launched our website presence in November as well. Since going live, the site has received over 300 unique visits to the page. Our hope is that as we attend more events, we can promote that this information is out there and help folks understand all of the details around the efforts that we're making here on equitable procurement. And hopefully we will be able to share some of these data points publicly as well once we start to formalize that. Next slide, please. And now we can move into our general finance update. Next slide, please. Fiscal year 22 started on July 1st, 2021. At the halfway point, the BPDA operations are progressing as planned. The intercompany grant revenue has not been recognized so far this year because the specific project has not happened on the BRA side. OWD grant income continues to be slightly ahead of schedule. Our lease and rentals are ahead of budget due to a strong first quarter. And parking revenue is ahead of budget due to some unanticipated construction parking at Bunker Hill and an increase in citywide transient parking. Next slide, please. Additional highlights, you can see equity participation has been ahead of schedule due to favorable condo sales activity. And on the expense side, we are seeing continued vacancies that are keeping our salary spending low. Through the budget process last year, we had identified 24 unique new positions. Of those positions, 10 have been filled. Employee benefit spending still remains low due to our vacancies. And as mentioned, since the intercompany grant is not yet realized, contractual spending remains fairly low. Select property management expenses have not yet incurred, and we're really excited for those to get underway. Next slide, please. For parking, we've talked about this as the pandemic has gone on. This is a revenue stream that is most affected by COVID-19 restrictions. We're pleased to see favorable trends in parking as well. If you look closely at this graph, you can see that the revenue we collected from the month of December 2019, the pre-pandemic, is below what we collected in 2021. December tends to be one of our lowest months, and so we feel that if we are outperforming our pre-pandemic numbers in December, we feel quite confident about activity in the third and fourth quarter. So keep an eye on that and certainly bring you more information as the year goes on. Next slide, please. Briefly, here's a very high-level summary of our capital spending through the second quarter. Based on contracting and invoicing activities we are seeing right now, there should be an increase in spend in the second half of the year. The largest project, as I mentioned, is Building 108. Once that project is complete, we'll see a big jump in spending. With that, I will conclude. I do not need a vote. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
My question is that I understand there's a specialized outreach procurement effort that's going on tomorrow morning. Could you elaborate on that briefly?
Yes, we will be having, we've termed it Unlocking Opportunities with BECMA, specifically focused on our buying plan. We'll be talking about land disposition opportunities. We're going to specifically drill in on parcel P3. We also will have members of our staff from BLDC and BIDFA, so Bill Nickerson and Gisela will be joining. And so we're going to create separate breakout rooms, and so attendees will be able to choose who amongst our team they speak with. And so we'll be doing a general presentation and then breakout sessions. We're if you follow just to join in. It'll be virtual, so you can come along anywhere.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Okay, well, thank you so much, Michelle. All right, we've got next personnel. Heather.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, Director Golden. We have several items for your consideration on the EDIC agenda this afternoon. 4 appointments with details in the memos. Susan Lombardi Verticelli, Volunteer Program Manager in the Office of Financial Empowerment, effective February 14th. David Jefferson, Executive Director, Green Jobs Youth Corps in OWD, effective February 14th. Sophie Schmidt, Data Operations Manager in the Business Strategy Department, effective February 28th. Camille Bergeron, Research Assistant in the Research Department, effective March 20th. We have 2 employment service contracts with details in the memos. Kevin Coogan in OWD, effective February 14th. Jamal Crawford in the DEI Department, effective February 28th. We have 1 co-op contract, that's Palak Tyagi in the Development Review Department, effective February 14th. 1 status change with details in the memo. Malik Gomes, Job Developer and Retention Specialist in the Youth Options Unlimited Department. 1 policy and procedure item with details listed in the board memo. And lastly, we have 3 departures, also with details listed in the board memo, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Heather. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was the conclusion of the EDIC agenda items. I need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I move that we adjourn the EDIC meeting.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes, meeting adjourned. So we'll now begin the BPDA portion of the agenda. Thank you for joining the February Boston Redevelopment Authority Board meeting. At this time, the Boston Planning and Development Agency is continuing to host public meetings in a virtual setting for the health, safety, and accessibility of Boston residents. For more information and updates, visit bostonplans.org. The Open Public Meeting Law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcast by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications at Xfinity Channel 24, RCN Channel 13, and Verizon Fios Channel 962. It's also being live streamed at boston.gov/cable. Okay, so to begin the meeting, I will do a roll call. Let's see, did I go back?
I am back. My
You're back?
apologies.
Okay, perfect.
My apologies, Madam Chair. I'm here.
No worries. Okay,
Present.
Ms. Downs, yeah. Mr. Monahan,
Present.
Dr. Landsmark,
Present.
Mr. Miller,
Present.
and I, Priscilla Rojas, am present. Okay, first item on the agenda, request authorization for the approval of the minutes of January 13th, 2022. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs,
Aye.
Mr. Monahan,
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 2, request authorization to schedule a public hearing on March 10th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. or at such a time and date deemed appropriate by the director to consider the development plan for planned development area number 133, 355 Bennington Street, East Boston. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we'll call for a vote. Ms. Downs? I think she's frozen. Okay. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 3, request authorization to schedule a public hearing on March 10th, 2022 at 5:40 p.m. or at such a time and date deemed appropriate by the director to consider the proposed Northeastern University 2013 through 2023 institutional master plan amendment. The motion is in order.
So
I'm
moved.
recusing myself from this matter.
Yep.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 4, request authorization to schedule a public hearing on March 10th, 2022 at 6 p.m. or at such a time and date deemed appropriate by the director to consider the First Amendment to the amended and restated development plan for planned development area number 1, Stewart Street. Motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 5, Board of Appeal. Brian.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Golden, Secretary Polimas. For the record, I'm Brian Glasscock, Deputy Director for Regulatory Planning and Zoning. Today, we're asking your approval to submit recommendations to the Zoning Board of Appeal for 38 cases covering the next 3 hearings, which are February 15th, March 8th, and March 17th. And that the list of those should have been in your briefing packets.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Motion passes.
All right, thank you, folks.
Thank you. Item number 6, it's an informational update, 2021 Boston Civic Design Commission Annual Report. Elizabeth.
Hello, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Golden, Secretary Bohebus. My name is Elizabeth Stiefel. I'm a senior architect and urban designer at the BPDA and the executive director of the Boston Civic Design Commission. And as a reminder, the 13-member volunteers of the Boston Civic Design Commission are tasked with protecting and enhancing Boston's public realm, and they primarily review projects over 100,000 square feet. Could you go to the next slide, please? All right, so, they're tiny. So briefly, I'll just hit on some big numbers for you. Last year, the commission recommended for approval by the board 27 projects in 12 neighborhoods. They reviewed 52 projects and 46 meetings. We saw a 40% increase in the number of projects reviewed, and the map shows you the sort of dispersion of projects around the city, which is broader than it has been in past years. In addition to just sort of the numbers of the report, the actual annual report includes details of each of the projects recommended for approval with what the BCDC reviewed with that particular project. And the annual report in full is on the BCDC website. I'll just briefly mention my colleagues who helped me run the BCDC, Patricia Cafferty, Adam Johnson, and Colleen Woods, who were instrumental in the essentially 40% increase in projects that we worked with the commission to review last year over 2020. And I'm happy to take any questions if you have them.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from the board? All right, well, this is a great update. We appreciate you coming and definitely appreciate you and all of the work that your team does for the city and the agency. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
Okay, so moving on to item number 7, request authorization to enter into a contract with Tool Design Group LLC for the South Boston Transportation Action Plan in an amount not to exceed $400,000. Sam.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, Director Golden. My name is Samantha Roy. I'm a transportation planner here at the BPDA on the transportation infrastructure team. And one of the neighborhoods that I am assigned to is South Boston. Per your approval back in October, we solicited responses to the request for proposals for the South Boston Transportation Action Plan. And I'm here to present to you today a consultant team recommendation per your approval. Next slide. And as Jim Fitzgerald mentioned back in October at the board, the request for proposals geographical scope is really the traditional South Boston fabric of the residential neighborhood. It's bound by First Street and the Channel Reserve to the north, and then Old Colony and Columbia Road to the south. And we worked in concert with the Boston Transportation Department, Public Works Department, and the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services to create this RFP. We crowdsourced best practices in transportation RFP creation among our colleagues, as well as regional examples, and we really learned from their experiences. The action plan will focus on refining the long-term multimodal transportation network. It will be informed by an in-depth analysis of existing and future conditions. We'll collaborate with the community, with our BPDA and city colleagues, agency partners like MassDOT and BTA, and we'll identify a list of short and long-term solutions focused on an implementation plan based on the future build-out. The anticipated timeline for our action plan will be 2 years. Next slide. The RFP was approved for release by the BPDA Board of Directors at the October board, as I mentioned, and we subsequently issued the RFP on November 17th. We received 3 proposals on December 27th from Tool Design, Kittleson and Associates, and Arup. All the proposals met the minimum threshold quality requirements. A selection committee reviewed these proposals, and we conducted interviews with each respondent over the following weeks. The selection committee was composed of BPDA Planning, BTD Transportation, Neighborhood Planning, and Boston Transportation Department Engineering. We ultimately recommend Tool Design as a lead consultant with support from Nelson Nygaard Consultant Associates and Grayscale Collaborative. Tool is a woman-owned business, and Grayscale Collaborative is a disadvantaged business enterprise. The proposal was highly advantageous, highlighting their attunement to the nuanced challenges and opportunities of South Boston, strong community engagement plan, and an extensive track record of work within the transportation analysis and engineering field, really specifically in Boston. We appreciate your support for the release of this RFP. We look forward to hearing questions that you may have, as well as your decision on the consultant recommendation provided today. I thank you for your time and for your continued service to the city of Boston.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
Could you just offer a word on Tool Design's experience working in Boston?
Sure, yeah. Many of the policies that Boston Transportation Department have today have been actually co-created with Tool as a consultant. In addition to that, they were the sub-consultant on Plan Dorchester Avenue. They also have been involved in a number of our planning initiatives at the BPDA as within the transportation scope of those planning initiatives. So they are supporting currently with Plan Mattapan as well as Plan East Boston.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions or comments? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 8, request authorization to dispose of parcel S20 and parcel S21 in the Washington Park Urban Renewal Area, project number Mass R-24, to dispose of parcel X-28B in the Charlestown Urban Renewal Area, project number Mass R-55, and to dispose of 20R Gassia Street in Roxbury pursuant to the Abutter Parcels Program. Jonathan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Secretary, Director Golden, and members of the board. It's a pleasure to be before you once again. I'm here today to request approval for the inclusion of 4 parcels into the Abutter Parcels Program. The disposition team of the Real Estate Division, in concert with urban renewal and legal teams, is launching a new round of the Abutter Parcels Program. As you may remember, the Abutter Parcels Program was approved by the board on September 30th, 2004. This program sells small, unbiddable, BPDA-owned vacant parcels to adjacent property owners as deed-restricted open space. These parcels may be used for yard expansions, walkways, gardens, parking, and structures associated with open space for residential uses. The asking price for these dispositions will be based on either assessed value or appraised value as appropriate. Next slide, please. 2 of the parcels before you today are in the Washington Park Urban Renewal Area and can be seen in the upper right-hand portion of the slide. Of these parcels, 1 is too narrow for any development. The other has been used and maintained by a subutter. The 3rd parcel is in the Charlestown Urban Renewal Area, and it is merely a leftover sliver of land that is between a residence and the structure's gas meter, which can be seen at the bottom. The last parcel is not in the urban renewal area, but it is surrounded by other developments on all sides without access to any public or private roads. The community and neighbors of this parcel strongly favor the sale of this parcel to abutters for a yard expansion, which can be seen in the upper left-hand corner. If approved today, program applications will be made available to all direct abutters for 60 days. After evaluating the applications received, I will return to the board to obtain approval to convey each individual parcel to the eligible abutter per the program guidelines. I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 9, request authorization to enter into an amended license agreement with Richard Natal doing business as TNTs for the use of BRA-owned kiosk for the merchandise vending kiosk at Long Wharf. Lauren.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, the downtown waterfront area is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the city of Boston, making it a valued location for souvenir merchandising vending. The locations for the downtown waterfront kiosk program are on BPDA-owned land strategically located between Long and Central Wharfs. The vending kiosk program on BPDA-owned land is an opportunity to support the return of tourism to the city of Boston. The downtown waterfront merchandise program creates opportunities for local small businesses to sell merchandise to the public. Richard Natali, TNTs, requested to extend his current license for the use of 2 kiosks as a Boston-themed apparel and souvenir sales for a rate of $3,000 per kiosk per month for the 2022 season. Any license extension will be at the sole discretion of the director with a market rate fee determined by the BPDA prior to renewal. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, do you have any questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you. Item number 10, request authorization to amend the existing license agreement with CHLN Incorporated for the use of approximately 5,375 square feet of land adjacent to the Chart House Restaurant on Long Wharf for seasonal outdoor restaurant seating. Lauren.
The Chart House Restaurant, located at 60 Long Wharf, is owned by CHLN Inc., but operated under the umbrella of Landry Restaurants, which is headquartered in Houston, Texas. In June 2019, the board entered into a license agreement with CHLN for the use of 2,475 square feet of land in front and 2,900 square feet of land in the rear of Chart House Restaurant on Long Wharf to be used for seasonal outdoor restaurant seating. The amendment has been subsequently amended, and as part of the City of Boston Pandemic Relief Initiative, the director authorized to further amend the license to extend the termination date to March 31st, 2022, and to abate the license fee for the remainder of the term to support efforts to aid small businesses during COVID-19 pandemic response. CHLN has requested an extension of its current license for seasonal outdoor seating. Though anticipated, the renewal of the City of Boston's COVID pandemic relief initiative has not been formally announced for 2022. BPDA staff is conducting a market analysis to determine the fair rate to charge for the outdoor seating on BPDA property, and will be coordinating with the City of Boston on this effort to ensure citywide equity. However, in the event that the City of Boston elects to offer outdoor seating on the City of Boston property at no cost, BPDA will respectfully follow suit. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Down?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 11, request authorization to enter into an amended license agreement with CityView Incorporated for the use of a BRA-owned kiosk located between Long and Central Wharf for the downtown waterfront trolley stop program. Lauren.
As I mentioned before, the downtown waterfront kiosks are strategically placed for premium access to tourists. Although the seasonal kiosks are not subject to 30B, the BPDA had issued a request for proposals in November 2021. 2 vendors responded to the RFP. Each offered a rate below that quoted in the RFP, citing financial hardship caused by the effects of the pandemic on the tourist industry. Staff subsequently conducted a market analysis to review competitive market pricing and agreed to consider hardship requests offered by the respondents. Accordingly, staff is recommending that for the 2022 season, one of the available kiosks be awarded to CityView Inc., who will operate the walk-up ticket sales for trolley tours of historic Boston for a rate of $1,800 per month for the 2022 season. Due to the remaining uncertainty regarding Boston's tourism economy as the nation emerges from the COVID-related restrictions, BPDA is recommending the above referenced market rates-based fee for the 2022 season with options to extend the license through the 2025 season. It is anticipated that ramp up to full economic recovery may extend beyond 2024. Any license extension will be at the sole discretion of the director with a market rate fee determined by the BPDA prior to renewal. Once it's determined that the economic recovery is solidified, BPDA may reconsider issuing an RFP for seasonal kiosk use. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 12, request authorization to enter into an amended license agreement with Deacon Transportation Incorporated doing business as Old Town Trolley Tours of Boston for the use of a BRAM kiosk to support the downtown waterfront trolley stop program. Lauren.
The second vendor who responded to the RFP, Old Town Trolley, also offered a rate below that quoted in the RFP, also citing financial hardship caused by the effects of the pandemic on the tourism industry. Staff is therefore recommending for the 2022 season that one of the available kiosks be awarded to Deacon Transportation, DBA Old Town Trolley of Boston, who will operate the walk-up ticket sales for trolley tours for a rate of $1,800 per month for the 2022 season, in line with the business model described just now. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 13, request authorization to enter into an amended license agreement with Black Owl LLC for the use of approximately 2,850 square feet of land located at Building 34 in the Charlestown Navy Yard for seasonal outdoor restaurant seating. Lauren.
Black Owl LLC are the owners of the Dovetail Restaurant, a full formal restaurant with an integrated grab-and-go sandwich shop. In June 2022, the board authorized a license agreement with Black Owl for the use of approximately 2,850 square feet of land in the Charlestown Navy Yard for seasonal outdoor seating. At the March 11th, 2021 board meeting, an additional term commencing April 1st and expiring March 31st, 2022 is approved. Black Owl has requested an extension of its current license for seasonal outdoor seating. As described in the previous vote, BPDA staff will respectfully follow the City of Boston opinion for outdoor dining rates. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 14, request authorization to enter into a license agreement with Suffolk Jewelers Incorporated for the use of 4,760 square feet of land located at 23 through 35 East Lenox Street in Roxbury to be used as employee and customer parking. Lauren.
Suffolk Jewelers and Pawn has been a presence on the corner of Washington Street and Newcomb Street since 1910. Suffolk has utilized the lot, as you described, for customer and employee parking since 2005 through multiple license renewals. The current license was approved at the April 2020 board meeting and allowed for a one-year term commencing May 1st and expiring April 30th, 2021. The license agreement automatically renewed for an additional one-year term and is now scheduled to expire on April 30th, 2022. Staff is recommending a license agreement for a one-year term commencing May 1st, 2022 and expiring April 30th, 2023, with 2 additional one-year terms, which will be permitted at the sole discretion of the director. The fee for the use of the license area will be $3,465 per month, which is consistent with the current license and has been verified as appropriate by a separate market analysis conducted by BPDA staff. In the event the above referenced option term is exercised, rent will increase by a minimum of 5% per year. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks, and done.
Item number 15, request authorization to issue a certificate of completion for the Clipper Ship Wharf project at 35 through 45 Lewis Street, 55 Lewis Street, 65 through 69 Lewis Street, and 11 through 15 Monsignor Albert A. Jacob Road in East Boston. There's no presentation, so a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 16, request authorization to issue a certificate of completion for Phase B of the Parcel U project located at 119 through 125 and 133 through 135 Hyde Park Avenue in Jamaica Plain. Again, no presentation. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 17, request authorization to issue a certificate of completion for the Fan Pier Parcel E project located at 10 Fan Pier Boulevard in the South Boston waterfront. No presentation. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 18, request authorization to adopt a confirmatory order of taking with respect to a portion of parcel 20 in the South End Urban Renewal Plan, project number Mass R-56, located at 140 through 146 Lenox Street, for the conveyance of said portion of parcel 20 to the Boston Housing Authority, and to take all related actions. Ray.
Good evening, and thank you, Madam Chair, Director Golden, Madam Secretary, and members of the board. As you recall, on April 15th, 2021, the board approved the conveyance of 140 Lenox Street to the Boston Housing Authority. This parcel consists of the last remaining portion of parcel 20 within the South End Urban Renewal Plan, project number Mass R56, pertaining to approximately 3,812 square feet of unbuildable vacant land. It is adjacent to the Boston Housing Authority's Lenox housing development, a 285-unit affordable community located at approximately 136 Lenox Street in the Lower Roxbury neighborhood of Boston at the intersection of Lenox and Kendall Streets. The parcel is located adjacent to the management office of Lenox Housing. It has been in use by the BHA for the last several years for staff parking of approximately 3 to 4 cars and to house a dumpster and some landscaping. In order to ensure that the parcel's legal description is fully accurate in the deed to BHA, and because the exact borders of the parcel's side abutting Kendall Street are not able to be precisely determined by the City of Boston Department of Public Works without conducting a survey and relaying out the street, the BPDA seeks approval from the board to execute as a housekeeping matter a confirmatory order of taking against all parties known and unknown for recording at the Suffolk County Registry of Deeds. This action will serve to clarify this order and to clear title in case a small number of inches are inadvertently taken from inactive Kendall Street, thus ensuring that the BHA receives a clear title to the parcel. Therefore, I'm requesting that the board please approve the confirmatory order of taking for the remaining portion of parcel 20 to ensure that the parcel's title is clear and its legal description is accurate in the deed to the BHA. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ray. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
We'll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 19, request authorization to issue a determination waiving further review pursuant to section 80A-6 of the zoning code in connection with the notice of project change for the 60 Guest Street project, identifying the new owner developer and approval of certain design changes and to take all related actions. Sarah.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Polimas, and Director Golden. As you may recall, the Boston Landing project along Guest Street in Brighton was originally approved by this board back in 2012. The master developer for Boston Landing submitted a notice of project change on August 7th of 2020, which contained updated use and dimensional information on all of the Boston Landing projects, including the proposed project at 60 Guest Street. The BPDA reviewed that NPC at a public hearing on October 15th, 2020, and the director issued a determination waiving further review on January 22nd, 2021. On July 19th, 2021, 60 Guest Street owner LLC filed a notice of project change with the BPDA. The NPC identifies the 60 Guest Street owner LLC as the new owner and developer of the proposed project. The current developer is an affiliate of Lendlease, a global real estate and investment group with offices in Boston. The NPC also provides an update on the design, permitting, and other features of the proposed project, and confirms that the proposed project will comply with the use, dimensional, and parking requirements set forth for 60 Guest Street in the large project review filings, PDA master plan, and development plan. The proposed project includes up to 320,000 square feet of office, clinic, and research and development uses, up to 8,000 square feet of commercial uses, and up to 300 parking spaces. The BPDA hosted an IAG meeting on August 23rd, 2021, and a separate public meeting on August 24th. The comment period subsequently closed on September 10th, and the project was approved by BCDC on February 1st, 2022. At this point, I would like to hand it off to Nick Islin from Lendlease to begin the presentation.
Thanks very much, Sarah. Director Golden, Madam Chair, and members of the board, I'm Nick Islin, and I am pleased to be here to represent Lendlease and our partner at 60 Guest, Ivanhoe Cambridge. For those of you who don't know Lendlease, we are a global development, construction, and investment management firm operating in 4 main regions of the world with a home base in Australia. We started our development business in the US in 2014, and we just delivered our first project in Boston, Clippership Wharf, which you just voted on a few minutes ago. Clippership was a great project for us, especially as our first one in Boston, as we got to explore our values, promoting sustainability, community engagement, and perhaps most importantly for that project, creating resilient solutions to urban problems. It truly fit in with our mission to create the best places. Building on that, we've moved on to 60 Guest Street and are really excited to help realize the vision put forward by New Balance a decade ago. 60 Guest is a union construction project delivering at least 250 construction jobs. It is particularly exciting because when finished, it will deliver 1,000 people a day to Boston Landing. That will help enliven the street, retail, and help make it a 24/7 community as it was envisioned to be. We're striving for a minimum of LEED Gold for the project and will likely achieve Platinum as we did at Clippership. And as we've achieved in our multifamily portfolio, 60 Guest will be a net zero project using 100% green energy. As Sarah said, we're completely compliant with the Boston Landing PDA master plan requirements and all aspects of the amended zoning that went into effect in December of 2020, and have worked with New Balance to create an appropriate complement to their existing assemblage of bold and interesting buildings. We've had productive interactions with the IAG and the community and have really listened to the desire for inclusive and welcoming public space in our project, sometimes an anomaly in life science buildings. We've also met with Councillor Braden's office on a number of occasions to hear their concerns and tailor our proposal appropriately. And as you'll see today, the design has evolved in a really positive way since our filing, both through interactions with the BPDA design staff and through a number of BCDC subcommittee meetings. I have with me today John Sullivan from SGA and Phil Colleran from IBI, who will walk you through the design and highlight some of the positive aspects we've arrived at. If you want to go to the next slide. These are just some of the guiding principles that we laid out early in the process, and they were completely reinforced in our interactions with the IAG and the community. Paramount is a production of a unique and interesting public realm, and enhancing what New Balance has already done. We'll have spaces that provide community engagement, and we're particularly proud to complete this vision that New Balance laid out quite some time ago, and of course do it as sustainably as possible. So if you go to the next slide, I will turn it over to John Sullivan, our architect from SGA, and he can give you a brief presentation.
Great, thanks, Nick. My name is John Sullivan. I'm a partner at SGA. We're the architects for this project. I'm very excited to be here presenting in front of the board. I'll give a very brief presentation, but to set the context, just identify the site. You can see here that 60 Guest Street is really the last piece of the puzzle in the Boston Landing Master Plan. The final piece to complete the vision. And, we were excited by that and, really complementing the context that exists around us. And, we feel like our building and our public realm offering is really kind of the crescendo of that, experience along Guest Street. You can see here the purple, identified on the plan as a series of active uses that exist in Boston Landing. We're significantly contributing to that, as well as the public realm along the Guest Street corridor, which is really the development's main street. The images on the bottom, you can just see, again, the relationships of the site to the Auerbach Center and the Warrior Ice Arena and 80 Guest Street. So, really an eclectic assemblage of buildings, and, we're excited to be contributing to that fabric. The next slide highlights, this is kind of a series of views that, shows a little bit of our evolution of design through the process. These are views from the Mass Pike, where we started with the BCDC and then where we moved the design towards after a really productive and robust dialogue with that group. We feel like the building improved. We're excited about the design direction, and what you see here is some of that work and how the building has been, really been shaped, through that very positive process. And the next slide shows you this view in its current form, from the Mass Pike. We're excited because we think this building is really iconic, has an iconic place in the city as it relates, to people entering and exiting, along I-90. And within the massing envelope, we felt like we had an option to really sculpt this building, create something very dynamic that used soft corners, step backs, and other massing moves to create really somewhat of a sculptural, articulation of the building, something dynamic and something that again responds to the interesting grouping of buildings that it sits near. It's also, we took note to think through color and material, so copper tone, something very warm, something again that can be very bold in its expression, as it sits within within the New Balance development. The next view gives you the sense of the building from Guest Street, really important corner in the master plan along Guest and Light Streets. We'll talk in a minute about the public realm and the active uses of the ground plane, but to just look at the building again, there's stepping and curved corners that really creates a sculptural presence for this building, mitigating the massing, picking up on some of the adjacent datums, and really, providing something that we think is very unique and dynamic, again, in the context of Boston Landing. Vertical elements, express those copper tones and are, orchestrated around the buildings to really present, a unified design expression. The next slide highlights the facade itself, and again, the color was really something that we delved into with the BCDC. Our goal was to create something warm and inviting, and interesting in terms of detail. And we've used that copper tone in a gradient type fashion to wash over the building, and again give it a strong identity, within Boston Landing. The next two slides highlight really what's happening at the ground plane, and again we're excited to really contribute to the public realm and really activate this important corner of Boston Landing. As Nick had said, there's a lot of feedback through the community about welcoming community space. So our ground level offers a lobby in which we'll invite the public. We're calling it our community living room. There's a substantial cafe that will allow for spill out onto the sidewalk. And offer somewhat of a porous edge along an expanded sidewalk at Guest Street, so outdoor seating, and then a gallery space that ties that together, which again is an opportunity for community art and other art that can be seen as people walk by the building. And the images on the bottom give you a sense of the attention to detail and material. As it relates to the building, but also as it relates to these seating enclosed or little seating enclaves and special spaces along that sidewalk edge. And then the next image, again, shows that more at the building scale. You're standing across the street, on Guest Street. You see the base of the building, warm, rich colors that reflect wood that, carry that base again, and a high level of transparency along those active edges, and then you can see the building above. So we're excited to, again, to really, celebrate the public realm and celebrate the base of this building. It's a very active spot along the Guest Street corridor. And with that, I'll turn it over to our landscape architect, Phil Cullerin from IBI, to talk about the public realm.
John, maybe you want to step in and.
I can. Sure. If Sarah, if you could advance the slides here. This just highlights, what we're proposing along Guest Street. There's a really nice public realm that's established, and we thought that we had the opportunity to take it even further in terms of, more depth to sidewalk, a really lush environment that includes a lot of the planting that you see on the right. Again, this interesting, edge to the, between the planting and the sidewalk that allows for seating and spill out from the cafe and the active uses. And then you see a little example of that to the left in this page, where those seat walls rise and fall with, with that edge condition, and, welcome people and again, kind of support that heavily planted edge that, that we're very excited about.
Apologies, John, I kind of got a delay there on getting back in, but we worked with the design team, with the BCDC on really creating a lush planting edge along the corridor. And as John mentioned, the goal has always been for a very activated public realm and a strong relationship back to the building program, but to really create a dense green edge, one that's going to be drought tolerant, hardy, low maintenance, but really create a strong visual interest. So the next slide. And then in looking at the cross sections, we really tried to maximize the public realm within the furnishing zone. And we cut these sections just to illustrate, what the overall dimensional transitions are from our project across the street on Guest Street. And we really exceed the minimum requirements for the Boston Complete Streets and create, a very wide and active public realm as it relates back to the building program. And with that, John, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Phil. That concludes the presentation. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have questions or comments from the board? Okay. Hearing and seeing none, motion's in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsberg?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 20, request authorization to issue a certification of approval in accordance with Article 80E Small Project Review of the Zoning Code for the construction of 24 residential rental units, including 3 IDP units, 29 bicycle spaces, 8 off-street garage parking spaces located at 38 Hitchborn Street, to petition the Board of Appeal for approval of the necessary zoning relief, subject to continuing VRA design review, and to take all related actions. Lance.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, and Director Golden. I'd first like to orient the board members. Next slide, please. Next slide to the project site. As you just saw, the last project presented was located near the train station. This project is on the south side of that, off of North Beacon Street, a very short walk to the train station, just to give you some orientation. And the project's in the Guest Street planning study. The project consists of 5 stories with the ground floor commercial space measuring slightly below 800 square feet with 8 parking spaces. The commercial space entrance is going to be off the new public way called New Balance Way, and the garage entrance and the residential entrance will be off of Hitchborn Street. The project's unit mix consists of 16 studios, 4 one-bedrooms and 4 two-bedrooms. BPDA staff is recommending to issue a certification of approval, an ARHA, an affordable rental housing agreement and restriction, enter into a community benefits and contribution, and take any and all other actions deemed necessary. Also recommend approval to the City of Boston Zoning Board of Appeal on petition BOA 1034332 for zoning relief necessary to construct the proposed project. Peter Venka will give a brief overview of the project, and the project counsel, John Polgini, is present to answer any questions for the board. Peter?
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay? Excellent. Thank you so much, Lance. Good afternoon to the board. As mentioned, this is an extraordinarily unique site in the sense that it's really a transitional site. It's transitioning from the smaller neighborhoods, maybe even some of the industrial single-story elements that are outside of the New Balance development. It has to really modulate between the old and the new. Even some of the multifamily buildings that have been built along Hitchborn and are now at that 4- and 5-story level, but transitioning over to the high rises beyond the amazing New Balance development. If I could just get next slide, please. This site is unique in that it probably is the last parcel containing some of the smaller 2-family and 3-family dwellings that formerly occupied or lined Hitchborn Street. There is going to be a new private way that cuts through to the New Balance development. The building, the subject building, is remnant of land that's left after that cut through. Next slide, please. It is, here we're looking essentially eastward, just for, as you can formulate your, looking east so you can get the idea of cardinal direction. New Balance Way more or less runs north-south. Next slide. We are 5 stories above grade. We have a common roof deck, basement mechanicals, 8 parking spaces that are achieved via an automated parking machine, 24 rental units that are going to be 1 commercial area, and 12 studios, 4 studios plus den, 4 1-beds, 4 2-beds. Grand total of 19,702 square feet when calculated for FAR purposes, but a total of 22,557 square feet of gross floor area. Next slide. As mentioned previously, this building really needs to be the transitional building that knits the entire neighborhood together. It needs to knit what has been done, multifamily buildings that are in the area that are already 5 stories, but we're also trying to take it up a level and actually have it talk maybe a little bit more directly with the New Balance development. Here, there's a little bit more of a nod to the panelization that you see in the New Balance development, a little bit more of a modernist tone. We've really had a great process working with BPDA staff. We've worked through the materiality, the massing. We feel great about the place that the building is, that the project has ended. And we feel that it's doing exactly what we set out to do with the project. Next slide, please. Just a large view of the previous one. This is, again, looking northward, looking toward the track and field building, which is on the left. And this is that new private way that does not exist yet, but will exist. Next slide, please. Same orientation, more or less, but looking down on our main entry. Next slide, please. We're rotating. This is looking a little more southward, but you start to see the other side of the building. Next slide, please. And back down to a pedestrian view, more or less looking south. This is what you would see from the track and field building. And just our lowermost level there that you're seeing, a lot of glass. The intention is that this is a commercial space. That's where our one commercial element is. It's really meant to anchor the building there and orient itself and from a commercial stance toward the New Balance development. Next slide, please. Yet again, massing, we are capping out our main roof at 59 feet, 5 stories. Next slide, please. Sectionally, this demonstrates a little bit of how we're doing our basement and our parking machines going down and into the ground. But overall, our main primary roof is again at 59 feet in 5 stories. Next slide, please. Won't belabor the plans too much. This is the first floor. This is looking east, so east is up, north is to the left. Primary residential entry there on the far bottom right. And the commercial spaces are on the far left. Next slide, please. This is just to show the basement level, show how we are containing our parking machine. Everything goes down one level. All of our mechanicals are housed in this basement zone. Transformer in grade as well. So we don't have any issues with external transformer that would prohibit the building from being powered. Next slide, please. Moving up to the roof plan with our roof deck, generous roof deck that's going to be common to the building. Excellent views to Boston and into Cambridge. Next slide, please. And that's it. I'll turn it back over to Lance.
That concludes our presentation, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, item number 21, request authorization to issue a determination waiving further review pursuant to section 80A-6 of the Boston Zoning Code to EM 449 Cambridge LLC in connection with the change of ownership for the construction of 152 residential units, including 26 IDP units located at 449 Cambridge Street in Alston, and to take all related actions. Caitlin.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Director Golden, Secretary Polhemus, and members of the board. Caitlin Coppinger, Project Manager in Development Review. In August 2020 and subsequently in November 2021, this board approved the project at 449 Cambridge Street in Alston, allowing for the construction of 2 buildings at 449 Cambridge Street and 2 Emery Road, totaling approximately 164,000 square feet of new construction. The building will include 152 residential rental units, 26 of which will be offered as IDP policy units. On January 14th, 2022, the BPDA received notice of a change of ownership of the 449 Cambridge Street project. The new owner, EM Cambridge LLC, has committed to maintaining the same programming and project design, as well as all previously approved community benefits and mitigation that was established during the original Article 80 review process. The action before you tonight will allow for the director to issue and enter into Article 80 agreements with the new owner, EM Cambridge LLC. I'm joined tonight by Adam Hunley, Gianni Parenti, Stephen Mahoney, and Sandra Rittenhouse from EM Cambridge LLC to answer any potential questions that the board may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 22, request authorization to issue a certification of approval in accordance with Article 80E Small Project Review of the Zoning Code for the construction of 21 residential condominium units, including 3 income restricted units, 21 off-street parking spaces, 21 bicycle spaces, subject to continuing VRA design review, located at 804 East 7th Street, and to take all related actions. Stephen.
Hold on a minute. Oh, board members, let me see if we can find Stephen. Madam Chair, let's hold on this for a moment and we'll come back after we locate Stephen and we'll move on to the next item. Okay?
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
So we're gonna move on to item number 23. Request authorization to issue a certification of approval in accordance with Article 80E, small project review of the zoning code to 519 East 2nd Street LLC, the new proponent of the 515 through 519 East 2nd Street project in South Boston for the construction of 30 residential condominium units, including 4 IDP units and 34 parking spaces, and take all related action. Ashley.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Director Golden, Secretary Polimas, and members of the board. In December of 2020, this board approved the project at 515 to 519 East 2nd Street in South Boston, allowing for the construction of a 5-story, approximately 39,750 square foot building, inclusive of 30 residential condominium units, 4 of which will be offered as inclusionary development policy units, and 34 parking spaces. The project was approved by the City of Boston Zoning Board of Appeal in April of 2021. On January 18th, 2020, the BPDA received written notice of a change of ownership of the 515 to 519 East 2nd Street project. The new owner, 519 East 2nd Street LLC, remains committed to all community benefits and mitigation measures established during the original Article 80 review and approvals for the project. The project design and programming has not changed from that which was previously approved by this board. The actions before the board this evening will allow the director to issue Article 80 approvals to and enter into Article 80 agreements with the new owner. We're joined this evening by Greg Clark from 519 East 2nd Street LLC. Greg and I are happy to answer any questions the board may have at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions or comments from the board regarding the change of ownership? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, Secretary Polhemus, are we ready for item number 22?
I believe that we are. I saw Stephen's camera come on a minute ago. There he is. We're ready to go.
Okay, should I reread it or?
Yeah, let's just start over again.
All right.
Thank you.
Item number 22, request authorization to issue a certification of approval in accordance with Article 80E, small project review of the zoning code for the construction of 21 residential condominium units, including 3 income restricted units, 21 off-street parking spaces, 21 bicycle spaces, subject to continuing BRA design review located at 804 East 2nd Street, and to take all related actions. Stephen.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, and Director Golden. My name is Stephen Harvey, and I'm a project manager at the BPDA, and I want to thank you for your time today. The project I bring before you today is 804 East 7th Street, located in the City Point section of South Boston. On August 27th, 2021, the Boston Planning and Development Agency received a small project review application from the proponent. The proponent proposes to rehabilitate a former nursing home into a 21-unit condominium residential structure with 21 parking spaces and 21 bicycle spaces. If approved, the new building will again contain 21 condominium units with 3 IDP condominium units. I held 2 virtual public meetings for the project, the first on September 23rd, 2021, and the second on January 26th, 2022. Both meetings were well attended, and the discussion brought about the project that you see today. Both virtual public meetings were advertised in the local paper by email. The final comment period for this project ended on February 1st, 2021. With that said, I would like to pass it over to Raul and D'Artagnan. Raul and D'Artagnan will represent the development team today and present the project proposal. George Moranci, the project attorney, is also in attendance. Once the presentation is complete, we will answer any questions put forward by the board. Also, I'd like to say that the district council or Councilor Flynn has also sent a letter in support of the project. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. And good evening, Madam Chair, Director Golden, Madam Secretary, members of the board. It's great to see you all again. Again, just for the record, my name is Raul DeVerge. I work for Rise Together, which is a minority-owned development company based in Dorchester. Our company, in conjunction with D'Artagnan Brown of Embark and Jordan Moranti of Moranti and Adams, are representing the owners, Chris Anderson and Stephen Niozzi. This site is a very sensitive site in South Boston, so before considering how to best repurpose it, the owners made a concerted effort to learn what may or may not be a good reuse for the site. And with that in mind, they made a commitment to work within the existing structure that occupied the site and the volume that existed, which again, they understood to be very, very important to community members in this area. Through the review process, we worked hard to accommodate or address all the feedback we received. So the project before you today that D'Artagnan will walk you through is a result of great collaboration between the project team, BPDA staff, community members, and local elected officials. And we're pleased to bring it before you today. Again, we really appreciate the opportunity to be before you, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have after the presentation. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Raul. Again, D'Artagnan Brown from Embark. Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for having us. I think if we can pop to the next slide, please. We can pop ahead if you don't mind, actually. Yep. So as Raul mentioned and outlined, we are staying within the existing structure of the building for 21 dwelling units with a 1-to-1 ratio on parking at 21 spaces. The program, again, stays within the zoning based on the square footage maintaining in the shell of the building at 32,000 gross with a lot size of 17,500. Next slide, please. This outlines just a quick high level on the work we've done with the community, starting off with a project that had 31 units, hearing from the community based on the type of units they'd like to see in the neighborhood. So we've reduced that down to 21. That included eliminating all of the studio units and increasing the family size units while maintaining the parking ratio. The biggest thing you'll see, if we can jump to the next slide, please, is how the site is located. It's a through street building, so it fronts both 7th and East 6th. That was important to us as designers in creating the public realm. In the next slide, please. You'll see the existing conditions. So a building that's been adapted over time. Part of this was working with the community to understand the level of aesthetics they like and how that has informed the project. And then on East 6 on the right, taking what was once the rear of the building and really bringing that back to life, which we'll show you in a moment. The next slide, please. You'll see we focused in with our landscape architects, MDLA, on both sides of the building, the public realm, really enhancing the pedestrian experience with really thoughtful designed landscape, hardscape elements such as benches, bike parking for the neighborhood, and also bringing full accessibility to the building, which doesn't exist today. In the next slide, please, you'll see the front entrance. So here we have a full landscape bed, a new entry to the residential, removing all of the applied trim, going back to a brick building, cleaning up all of the fenestration. In the next slide, please. You'll see the 6th Street side, again, bringing in the garage entry, landscaping bed, making sure we have safe transformers, things that are city requirement, which we've designed through. In the next slide, please. You'll see the front of the building. And this is where we are able to bring a fully accessible entry through the canopied designed element there that brings us into the building to access the 21 units, and then also has a very active bike program right on the inside, which we heard very loud and clear to plan for. In the next slide, please. I think we may be, yep, this is zooming in really to show the quality of what we plan to build here, working with Rise and Chris and his team. And really restoring the building and adding to the streetscape in a very thoughtful manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that conclude the presentation?
Yes, Madam
Yes, it
Chair.
does.
Awesome. Okay, do we have any questions or comments from the board?
Yes, I've got a couple of questions, and I've heard from, appreciated you staying within the envelope, because it is a big building in a typically residential neighborhood, so that was greatly appreciated. And also the consideration of reducing the studios and increasing the family size units was a very good concession. But I have heard from a number of people there was a development directly across the street on the East 6th Street side, similar size to this, so maybe about 20 units. And there's quite a bit of traffic in and out of that building, and there is some concern that where your cars will be coming in and out directly is across from that area. Is there any way to consider having the access to the garage on the other side of the building, the East 7th Street side?
Hello, Mr. Miller. This is George Moranci, the attorney for the project. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I'll address this, and D'Artagnan also could as well. But just as a bit of history, and I know that you live not far from the site, so you know it very well. And as I know that you know that I know the site very well. Beginning many years ago, a lot of people had approached me about, potential developers had approached me about developing this site. And my main concern in reviewing those, petitions to potentially represent people was that my opinion always was that this had to be create the least amount of impact from the reuse of the site, the adaptation of the existing nursing home. So keep within the existing volumetric conditions of the building. Parking and access to parking has always been an issue. It is currently achieved from the East 6th Street side of the site, and I know that the project to which you're referring, which is on the other side of East 6th Street. So that was sort of my last remaining concern, when Mr. Anderson came to me about this. The fact of the matter is, though, there's really no way to change that in the sense that, and we did look at it. The fact of the matter is to reintroduce or to introduce an ability to vehicularly access the site from 7th Street would change the building. There's a site grade change here that goes from 7th Street down to 6th Street. So we'd be looking at perhaps a ramp down. We'd be replacing a lot of the building as it exists on the left side on 7th Street. But in terms of zoning and zoning impacts, it also would have created a condition where we were directly impacting the Greenbelt Protection Overlay District. And that's one thing here that we've always kept in mind, that we are within a G-pod, and one of the G-pod considerations is impact upon the G-pod roadway. So it's always been thought that the best way to address the infiltration of the parking to the site would be to keep it on the East 6th Street side, because that's where all of the parking and vehicular access activity occurred, during the site's previous incarnation as a nursing home. So, there were actually many more vehicular trips, I think, if you looked at a trip generation study when this was an active nursing home, in terms of ride share, ambulances, which occurred a lot, vehicular traffic associated with visitors to patients or to residents of the nursing home. That's always been on the 6th Street site. So all I can say is that careful consideration was given to that issue, but for both logistical reasons, zoning reasons, and the fact that we think this is actually going to be lower impact in terms of trip gens for the site, it was decided that it would be better to keep it on the 6th Street side of the site.
Well, thank you for your good, well-reasoned explanation, George. It's certainly something I wanted to bring up before we move forward with this project, so thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Miller. I mean, again, that was, as I said, that was sort of the last remaining question, because I think this project hits every goal in terms of a repurposing of this building, and that was probably the only last remaining issue or question which you raised thoughtfully. And I just wanted to assure that we did consider it, and I think that the developer and the project team still made the right decision in terms of keeping it on 6th Street.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you. Let's. We're going to skip item number 24. We have to wait till 5:30 for that. So item number 25, personnel. Heather.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, and Director Golden. We just have one item for your consideration on the BRA agenda. That is a departure. David Pia, Director of Human Resources. I also believe there might be a duplicate memo from the policies and procedures that was on the EDIC agenda as well. Details in your board memo. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Any questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, item number 26, contractual. I need a motion to pay the bills.
I move that the BPDA pays its bills.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Please pay the bills. With that, we've kind of concluded all of the agenda items that we can right now. We have one more. Item number 24 is a public hearing, so but we can't start it until 5:30. So we are going to take a recess until 5:30, and we'll review the last item. Thank you, everyone. So we're working on agenda item number 24. This is a public hearing. So simultaneous Chinese interpretation is being provided for this meeting using language interpretation function within Zoom. We ask that you be patient in case of any technical issues. Language interpretation will not be enabled until instructions on how to access interpretation have been interpreted into Cantonese and Mandarin. Once interpretation has been enabled, a globe icon will appear. A reminder to all that are speaking today, we ask that everyone speak slowly for the interpreters. If you're speaking too quickly, I may interrupt you and ask you to speak slower. Thank you. To enable the interpretation for Cantonese and Mandarin, please click on the globe icon on the bottom of your screen, and by selecting Mandarin for Mandarin and Cantonese for Cantonese. You must also mute original audio. So Anna and Terry, would you now interpret the instructions that I just gave?
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Anna. I'll be a Cantonese interpreter for the meeting tonight. 大家好，我係 Anna 我係你嘅廣東話翻譯員。一陣間你見到地球儀嘅時候咧，撳落去揀廣東話嘅圖標，咁你就會去到廣東話嘅同步翻譯㗎啦。如果咧係用手機嘅話咧，記得撳個3個點，點點點，亦都會去到廣東話同步嘅翻譯㗎咯。Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Your turn, Terry.
Thank you, Anna. Hi everyone, my name is Terry. I'll be your Mandarin interpreter. 大家好，我叫 Terry， 我是你们的国语翻译。待会呢，你在屏幕下方呢会看到一个地球仪的图标，你选一下地球仪的图标，然后呢再选择Mandarin， 你就可以听到国语的这个翻译了。如果你是用手机或者是平板电脑上来的话呢，你可以选择屏幕下方的3个点，然后再选择语言的翻译，也可以进入到 Mandarin， 就是国语的频道。好，谢谢大家，一会儿见。Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ahmad, would you now turn the interpretation functionality on? We'll wait a bit to allow the folks to join the interpretation channel of their choice. Okay, so if you're having any difficulty activating interpretation, please call the phone number on the screen. Please take note of the phone number on your screen. If you have any difficulties later in the meeting, you may call that number. This project presentation has been translated into Mandarin and Cantonese, and it's available at the BPDA website at bostonplans.org/about-us/bpda-board/board-meetings. Please take note of the website address on the screen to enable the translated project presentation. So this is a public hearing before the Boston Redevelopment Authority, doing business as the Boston Planning and Development Agency, being held in conformance with Section 80B-7 of the Boston Zoning Code, to consider the proposed project at 745 Atlantic Avenue in the Levitt District of Boston as a development impact project. This hearing was duly advertised on January 27th, 2022 in the Boston Herald. This is a BPDA hearing on a proposed petition by the agency. Staff members will first present their case and are subject to questioning by members of the agency. Thereafter, anyone who wishes to testify about the proposed project will be afforded an opportunity. We are taking support and opposition at the same time. So if you're planning to testify, please take time now to verify that your computer microphone is active. Click on the hand icon on your Zoom control panel. This will signify to the staff that you would like to speak. When your hand is raised, it will be blue. If you're calling into the meeting and would like to testify, please dial *9 to raise your hand. When I call for all testimony, staff will announce your name and allow you to speak. You must unmute your microphone. Your webcam will not be active. In an effort to accommodate all who would like to speak about this proposal, each person will be given up to 2 minutes to comment. BPDA staff will indicate when 30 seconds remain. At that time, please conclude your remarks so that the hearing may continue and others may be heard. At the conclusion of all oral testimony, any email testimony will be read aloud. Finally, the proponents are allowed a period of 5 to 10 minutes for rebuttal if they so desire. And Mr. Carter will now begin the presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Golden, and Madam Secretary. I'm here before you this evening to present the proposed project at 745 Atlantic Avenue. The proposed project will seek to convert the existing building from office to lab usage, along with an updated ground floor, keeping the existing business and creating a new restaurant space. The letter of intent for the project was filed with the BPDA in August of 2021, and the project notification form was filed in September of 2021. A joint public and IAG meeting was held on November 22nd, 2021, and the comment period concluded on November 30th. There was an additional IAG meeting on February 1st. Additionally, Oxford has conducted its own own outreach to the public in the area of the project. The proposed project will convert the existing office building, which currently is 75% unoccupied, to lab-ready usage to address the vacancy as well as the growing life science industry in Boston. The renovation will be entirely interior, with the majority of the mechanicals for the building housed in the top 2 floors to reduce the impact of the project. Any remaining mechanicals that must be housed on the roof will be recessed and masked to prevent any visual impacts. Additionally, the project will retain the existing La Colombe coffee shop on the ground floor, build out a new restaurant space, and provide significant upgrades to the public realm. The building is being built out as a biosafety level 1 and 2 lab, will be targeting a LEED score of 61 points, and will have a carbon emissions intensity of 9.8 kilograms of CO2 per square foot per year. Before I turn to Oxford for the presentation, I would like to highlight the work on the next slide. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. That the BPDA has been undertaking in response to the rise of Boston as a global center of the life science industry. We are reviewing incoming lab projects, and we are giving special focus to health and safety concerns of the neighborhood, the location of the project, the design of the project, if there is significant demand for the lab space, and what workforce development supports and community benefits are appropriate for the project. We will continue to apply these 5 key lenses to all future projects. I would also like to note that due to unforeseen family circumstances, a member of the IAG was not notified of the date of this hearing ahead of time. This is an oversight that I personally take responsibility for, and both the BPDA and Oxford have committed to continuing to work with the IAG after this meeting today, regardless of the outcome of the hearing. I will now turn to the developer to walk you through the project, and after the presentation, I have several letters to read into the record.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you, members of the board, Director Golden and Madam Secretary. My name is Chris Whittier. I am one of the development team members here at Oxford Properties, the owner of 745 Atlantic and the proponent of the proposed project. And before we jump into the details of the project, I just want to say a few quick words about Oxford. As a company, we have a very large presence in Boston, but this is actually our first time in front of the BPDA board presenting. So just by way of background, Oxford Properties is the real estate investment, development, and operator of OMERS, the Ontario Municipal Employee Retirement System, which is a Canadian-based pension fund. So at Oxford, we are charged with investing the retirement assets of over 500,000 active and retired municipal employees, including teachers, first responders, and city administrators. As a pension fund, we're somewhat differentiated from other real estate development companies in that we have the unique ability to be long-term holders of our real estate, and we also have the flexibility to pursue environmental, social, and governance objectives alongside our fiduciary obligation to generate returns for the pension. Locally in Boston, Oxford has about 75 employees who help operate our 1.6 million square foot footprint in the city. Boston is Oxford's largest market outside of Canada, and one that we hope to be in for many years to come. So with that, I think we can jump into 745. So up on the screen, just to orient everyone, you can see 745 Atlantic here outlined in red.
at the edge of Boston's Leather District. The building is bound by Atlantic Avenue, Beach Street, and South Street. Oxford actually has a couple of other properties in this neighborhood at 125 Lincoln, 125 Summer, and at 79 Essex Street. So as stewards of the built environment, we have a really vested interest in the Leather District and the downtown, and this is an area that we really love in the city. Next slide, please. 745 was actually constructed in the late 80s and really lived out the first part of its life as a traditional office building, undergoing some minor renovations and capital improvement projects throughout the years. In 2013, WeWork signed its first lease at the property and went on to expand and become the anchor tenant at the building, occupying over 75% of the gross floor area. In 2015, Oxford entered the picture when we bought the building from Beacon Capital. And then, as we are all aware, in 2020, the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic had an unprecedented impact on the city and really upended the co-working business model. In 2021, Oxford was notified by WeWork that they intended to default on their lease and leave the property, and that resulted in a 75% vacancy rate. The remaining two tenants in the building have very little term left on their lease and are actually in the process of vacating as we speak. So this was obviously not an ideal situation for Oxford, but given that we have such a long-term investment horizon, we decided to use the vacancy as an opportunity to future-proof the building, to reinvest the building, and really secure our investment in the building for the next 50 years of our ownership. Next slide, please. In order to do that, as Nick mentioned, we are pursuing a change of use at 745 that will allow us to use the existing commercial space in the future as either life sciences R&D, office, or a combination of both. And I'll just note off the bat that R&D is an allowed use under the existing Leather District zoning as stipulated in Article 44 of the code. You'll notice from this table that we're not proposing any dimensional changes to the building, and as a result, there are no meaningful Article 80 impacts to speak of. Specifically, the height is not changing, the gross floor area is not changing. We're not making any changes to the building envelope. Site plan is remaining intact, and there are no changes to building access. There will be a slight reduction in parking within the three-story below-grade garage that results from an expansion of the bike parking facilities and as a result of the building's new stormwater infiltration system. Next slide, please. Despite the fact that we're not making many physical changes to the building, we've always strived to frame the Article 80 process in terms of both our goals at Oxford and the city's evolving imperatives. So just to touch on a few of those briefly, first and foremost, we're extremely focused on getting the building reoccupied as quickly as possible. And this is not driven solely by the need to stabilize the building financially, but also because we believe it's incredibly important to bring activity, foot traffic, and vibrancy back to this area of the neighborhood, especially as the downtown goes through this pivotal moment in its recovery from the pandemic. Second, we'll be bringing the building in line with Oxford and the city standards for sustainability and resiliency, and we're happy that the strength of the life sciences market allows us the opportunity to make those significant investments in the building's infrastructure. We are excited to also be introducing new uses to the downtown. We feel that the neighborhoods and the businesses of the downtown will benefit from a diversity of uses, and that ultimately the downtown will be a more stable environment in the future. We also want to respond to the neighborhood's needs and wants for more ground floor activation and 18-hour activity, and we're going to do that through the introduction of new active ground floor uses that Nick alluded to in his introduction. And then finally, given our presence in the city and the other projects that we're pursuing, we really do want to demonstrate through our actions that we are focused on being a good neighbor, a good partner to the city, and a good corporate citizen. Next slide, please. So just to give everyone a quick overview of the changes that we will be making, we've broadly bucketed them into 3 categories. So the first is base building upgrades. So all of this work is really going to happen on the interior of the building. We'll be updating systems. We'll be making the sustainability and resilience upgrades. There are some code compliance items that we need to make based on updates to the code that have occurred since construction, and we'll be expanding sort of the sustainable mobility options on site. The second has to do with the mechanical penthouse. Something that we're doing that is a little bit unique to conversions that you may have not seen in other projects that you've reviewed is that we're actually going to be repurposing a tenant floor, what was previously WeWork tenant space, to be our new enclosed mechanical penthouse. By locating most of the equipment inside the building, that obviously cuts down on any potential impacts such as noise or any visual impacts. And it also allows us to limit the amount of equipment that needs to be placed on the roof, which Nick mentioned will also be screened and recessed from the building edge. The third bucket is a ground floor revamp and refresh. So actually, if we flip to the next slide, here we can see the proposed ground floor in plan. You'll notice at sort of the top 2 corners, the loading dock entrance and the parking garage entrance are not changing. Those are remaining where they have been. We will be moving and enlarging the building's transformer vault, both to support the new program and also the city's sustainability requirements and further electrification of the building. We are going to be renovating the building lobby. If you're familiar with some of Oxford's other properties in the Back Bay and the financial district, we really tend to eschew the sort of formal office lobby. We like them to be transparent, connected to the public realm in the retail, and really a place where the public can grab a coffee, come in, sit down, do some work, have a meeting, and really engage with the building in a meaningful way. We will be retaining the existing La Colombe coffee shop as well, and we'll be trying to keep them open through most of the construction at the building, because we recognize this is an important asset to the neighborhood and a tenant that is well-liked. Finally, we will be expanding the ground floor retail by about 4,100 square feet by introducing a new full-service food and beverage offering that will be accessed by the building's secondary entrance on the corner of Beach and South Streets. Next slide. So here you can actually see the corner of the building at Beach and South. On the left are the existing conditions. When the building was originally constructed, this was a secondary entrance to the office lobby. Subsequently, that entrance was closed and the space behind it was actually leased out to WeWork as sort of spillover conference space, which really had the effect of kind of deadening the side of the building and making it a little bit dark, turning it back a little bit to the neighborhood. So we are really excited to introduce this new use, this restaurant to this corner and reactivate this edge. I think as everyone is aware, the restaurant space is very difficult at the moment, and this signifies a pretty substantial financial investment on the part of Oxford, but it's one that we feel is very important to supplement the loss of restaurants that have closed in the Leather District throughout the pandemic and to create sort of a neighborhood-facing amenity and entrance to the building once again. Next slide, please. So I just want to touch on Article 37 quickly. The primary or the most impactful sustainability element of this project is the fact that we are reusing an existing building and one that no less is located a few hundred feet from the largest intermodal transit hub in the region. So the project has a great embodied carbon story, and we are delivering this in-demand space with far fewer environmental impacts than would otherwise be experienced if we were to construct the building from the ground up. So first off, that's something we've been really focused on and a good story. Beyond that, we've been working with our consultant team to design a building that reduces its reliance on fossil fuels and limits its emissions. So in that pursuit, we have been able to create a 15% carbon footprint reduction below the baseline model and a 26% reduction in the energy and use intensity. Oh, sorry. Could we just go back to the Article 37 slide for a second? Thank you. As Nick mentioned, the building is targeting LEED Gold compliance. It is currently LEED Silver, but we will be pursuing an additional 10 credit points. And as the design evolves, we think we can actually scoop up a few more points in that regard and do a little bit better. The building is also located in the newly codified Coastal Flood Overlay District and will provide full protection to 20 feet of design flood elevation on day one. Finally, the building is also located within the G-COD, and the new stormwater infiltration system will help us infiltrate about 1,800 cubic feet of stormwater during storm events. Next slide, please. I won't touch too much on all of the meetings that have occurred, but we have been in a pretty robust community engagement process for the past 6 months. Sorry, I think this is pause for translation, correct?
No, I think we kind of hit the time limit,
Okay.
but you go ahead and you can go ahead and finish your presentation. Just.
I think we can probably just flip actually to the last slide in the interest of time then. So I won't touch on all of these points exactly, but as a result of the Article 80 process, the project will be contributing to affordable housing and jobs trust linkage. In an effort to augment workforce development opportunities, we are partnering with Mass Bio Education to fund an apprenticeship program that helps under and unemployed people connect to jobs in biotechnology and biomanufacturing. So that's a project that we're really excited about. Additionally, we've been working very closely with BPD, the Commission for Persons with Disabilities, and the BPDA to propose some pretty significant sidewalk improvements to Atlantic Avenue and Beach Street. And we'll also be making a contribution to the Leather District Neighborhood Association to fund other infrastructure improvements in the neighborhood. So I think with that, we can wrap up, and I'll just say thank you to the BPDA, to our local elected officials and the members of the IAG, whose comments were well received and helped push this project to a better place over the past 6 months. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this is a public hearing, so we will take comments from the public first, and then we'll go to board members for any questions or comments. So Secretary Polhemus, do we have anyone who would like to testify today?
Yep. Minor Perez, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is Mina Perez, representing the Carpenters Union. I want to thank the BPDA for conducting a thorough review, as well as the developer. From day one, they were committed to hire a general contractor that is a responsible general contractor, which means unemployed people and people from the neighborhoods get a chance at this construction jobs through apprenticeship and training programs, which means the general contractor is going to hire subcontractors that don't violate any state or federal laws, so which is wonderful. So therefore, Madam Chair.
No, but
Therefore, Madam Chair, it is with great pleasure the Carpenters Union will go in strong support of this project. Thank you.
thank you, Minor. Roger Berman, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I am a direct abutter at a building that's legal address is 186 South Street, but it extends through to Atlantic Avenue, 753 Atlantic. I'm also a member of the IAG for this project. I'll have a but at the end of my end of my comment, but I want to say as an abutter that Oxford has been, since their ownership began, entirely responsive, the highest level neighbor one could hope to have in an urban area. I'm very impressed with what they've proposed, and they've been available, both Chris Whittier and Mr. McGowan, when I've had a question. The two buts, or the three buts that I would add, and I mentioned them when we met last. These are a variant of them, but this is what it's been distilled down to for me. I'm very grateful for the sidewalk rebuild that will be in keeping with the recent rebuild that the city completed of the Beach Street corridor, and they've committed to do it on three sides of the building. It also addresses some latent ADA and walkability issues, and I'm very grateful for that. The Leather District has suffered over the years their sidewalks and their street lighting. And I'm not looking for this project to take on all of that. Some of those sidewalks have area ways, which makes them very complicated to address. But I'd love to have this project, while they're digging up and replacing sidewalks, to continue on the South Street face from their parking garage entrance to the corner of Nealand. In addition, the street lighting on that, at least that block, should be improved to standards that the city has set. I see the stop sign, so I'll wrap up quickly. The second is I would like to see a greater commitment stated someplace for increased MBE, WMBE participation in the build out. And the third and final is I'm extremely grateful for their commitment to activate the South Street face of the building. There is a 35-foot stretch that was listed as number one on one of Chris's charts, and it's on the Atlantic Avenue face. It's been tabbed for use by a transformer, and unfortunately, once that use goes into place, it will never be an active edge again. And so I would love to see something on that edge beside a mural, and I've made that clear to them. But with those caveats, those few things, I am here to endorse it, hope that it moves forward for them, and would love to see those items included in whatever the final orders from BPDA are. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to testify? Catherine Friedman, go ahead and unmute yourself.
So I'm also on the IAG for this project. I live in the Leather District. I'm going to echo some of what Roger said. I think Oxford has done a very good job of reaching out to the community, getting feedback, and they've listened. I do think it's important to go on record saying that there still are many people in the Leather District who do not support this lab use, and that should not be ignored. I've ultimately decided to send a letter of support for this project because I really do believe in the sustainable approach that Oxford is taking, and I believe that the public realm improvements are desperately needed in the Leather District. However, if this site is ever allowed to exceed that biosafety level 2, or if that South Street entrance gets closed off again, it negates a lot of the positives of this. So I do think that it is important that those be conditions for approval on this project.
Thank you, Catherine. Gary Walker, you can unmute yourself. Gary, there you go.
Yes, yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, Director Golden, Gary Walker, Electrical Workers, Local 103. I'd like to speak in strong support also, and just to thank Oxford for continuing to invest in our city. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Does anyone else want to testify on behalf of this project? Please raise your virtual hand. Madam Chair, this concludes the public hearing portion of this item.
Great, thank you. And I believe we have some written testimony that needs to be read into the record.
Yes, I do.
Perfect.
While Catherine Freeman has already testified, there are two other members of the IAG that are signed onto this letter, so I will read that as well. Dear Mr. Carter, as IAG members for 745 Atlantic, we recognize the following advantages of the proposed project. It repurposes an otherwise vacant building. There are no significant changes to the building envelope. Mechanical systems will be upgraded to reduce energy use. The plan to reopen the South Street entrance and install a new restaurant will help activate the Leather District. Oxford Properties has also agreed to the following benefits. Repave abutting sidewalks, install electric vehicle charging in the 745 Atlantic garage, contribute to affordable housing and job training, contribute to the Mass Bio-Ed apprenticeship program, assign $25,000 for additional Leather District improvements. While the project proposal and benefits are favorable to the community, we as IAG members are interested in pursuing a cooperation agreement that documents specific terms for the 745 Atlantic Avenue site. These include ensuring that the building will never exceed level 2 safety labs for use, and that the South Street entrance will have a permanent and accessible entrance. We believe that the health and safety of our neighborhood is dependent upon these factors. In keeping with these conditions, we are prepared to offer support for the 745 Atlantic Avenue proposal. And now a letter from Rep. Aaron Michaelowicz. Dear Mr. Carter, as the representative of the 3rd Suffolk District, I am writing to voice my support of the project at 745 Atlantic Avenue. The proposed changes to the 745 Atlantic Avenue building will revitalize a vacant office building and help reactivate the surrounding Leather District neighborhood. Repositioning the building to support Boston's rapidly growing knowledge economy will meaningfully diversify the downtown workforce, bringing new employees to the area throughout the week and supporting the recovery of local businesses. The ground floor and pedestrian experience will be far improved by the planned lobby renovations and new restaurant, coupled with the existing La Colombe. The building's food and beverage offerings will bring foot traffic to South Street for up to 18 hours a day, and will also help supplement the loss of several neighborhood restaurants that closed during the COVID-19 pandemic. The project will also generate meaningful benefits beyond the ground floor experience. 745 Atlantic will contribute to affordable housing creation and job training through linkage. Oxford's support of the Mass Bio-Ed apprenticeship program will ensure neighborhood residents can participate in the growing life science industry by providing a pathway to employment. Finally, the proposed building improvements will help further the City of Boston's sustainability and carbon emissions reductions goals. If you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to my office. I've got two more letters. This one is from Mr. Stan McGee. Dear Nick, I'm writing with respects to the proposed change of use / redevelopment by Oxford Properties of 745 Atlantic Avenue. Although I am submitting this to you prior to today's BPDA meeting, you do not need to consider this as public comment for this afternoon's meeting to be read aloud, but I wanted to get it to you so that it could be part of the public record. My husband, the Reverend John H. Finley IV, and I have lived and owned at 717 Atlantic Avenue, Boston, since fall 1998. We now own 3 separate condominium units at 717 Atlantic. One is our primary residence, and the other 2 condos are presently rental units with tenants. I am writing this letter in my personal capacity and not as a trustee of the 717 Atlantic Avenue Condominium Trust, which has taken no public position on this proposal. I also respectfully ask that you understand that this letter is solely with respects to 745 Atlantic and should not be construed as my support for other proposed projects by Oxford Properties at 125 Lincoln Street. I'm hoping that any decision made by the BPDA with 745 Atlantic will not be deemed as precedent for any change of use proposal at 125 Lincoln, which should be considered independently on its merits, and which I think even Oxford would agree is much more controversial within the neighborhood than what they're proposing as for 745 Atlantic. Finally, while I've been a member of the LDNA Since 1998, I am not writing on behalf of the LDNA or any other members of the LDNA. I will cut ahead and say that this letter is in support of the project because it's quite a bit longer. And then the final letter is from the member of the IAG who is not able to attend our last IAG meeting. Dear Nick, as you know, I am a member of the IAG. I was unable to attend the last meeting due to my mom's passing away. Today I learned that the BPDA is planning to take up this matter at a meeting this evening. As a member of the IAG, I believe we should have been provided advance notice, of this meeting. Given the lack of notice regarding tonight's meeting, I feel the need to express my objection to the matter being heard this evening. Please let me know if there are any other persons at the BPDA that I need to inform of my objection other than you. Thank you. Best, Chris. And that is all the letters.
Okay, thank you. We will now move on to questions or comments by the board.
I have a question, Madam Chair, of Chris. Yep. Chris, has the general contractor been selected yet?
It has. It is Gilbane.
Okay. And this is more of a comment of how fortunate we are in Boston with being able to move to labs on a dime when other uses, whether it be, offices due to COVID and other things, we're very, very fortunate. Do you happen to know, I follow a lot of this real estate, but do you happen to know how much space is needed for this sector? Again, we're very fortunate, but I know a lot of uses are changing, and we're lucky to have it, to be honest with you. Do you know how much square footage is needed for this industry as we transform over?
I have not heard a specific number that's been tossed around. People have quantified how much supply is in the pipeline, but I do know that, at least anecdotally, given the amount of planned lab supply in the city of Boston, it's basically all spoken for through 2025. So, there's a couple million square feet either entitled or under development at this point, I believe. And the vast majority of it has already been spoken for by companies. So, we continue to see very strong demand, both from companies that are relocating from Cambridge as they spin out of the universities or they spin out of other companies, and also companies coming from other parts of the country like North Carolina, Seattle, and San Francisco, who feel that it's very important to have a presence here due to the strength of the life science market. So at this moment, we still see very strong demand for the project, and even as the industry has started to become aware that we were going through the entitlements process at 745, we've already started to receive interest, especially given its location next to South Station.
And is it on spec, or do you have a firm that's ready to take advantage of the space once it becomes available?
It is speculative, and the lab market is really speculative by necessity, because a traditional law firm or financial firm, makes its space planning decisions 3, sometimes even 5 years in advance. The nature of this business and how these companies operate are they get their FDA approval or they get their venture capital infusion, and they pick up the phone and they say, I need to expand my workforce by 50% and I need an additional 20,000 square feet tomorrow. So unfortunately, unless you're in the position to deliver on a hard date and very quickly, you're not really in a position to get a tenant. So that's why we sort of say this market is a little bit different than your sort of traditional office tenants, and is really speculative by necessity.
Well, I hope it continues. I know during the pandemic it was reported as much as up to 3 million square feet of either vacant or sublet ready to come on the market. So let's hope it keeps going and we're able to just transform from an office to labs, and we'll be better off for it. We're lucky. Thank you.
Okay, additional questions or comments from the board? I just had a couple, if you wouldn't mind, touching on a couple of the themes from the public testimony. So can you speak to the, concerns around biosafety level increases and maybe shed some light on the process that would have to go through? And then I believe there was one on the ground floor activation opportunity with the transformer room. Sorry if I'm not getting the details right, but
No, absolutely.
okay.
Look, we understand that there's been a proliferation of these buildings in the city of Boston. We feel that, the city is very lucky to have this industry, so active and growing. But I think it's totally understandable because the industry is somewhat opaque that people have questions about what goes on in these buildings and is it safe and how do they operate. We feel education on the subject is needed, and one way that we've really tried to provide that is through our public meetings, but also in December, we offered members of the Leather District in Chinatown what we call the Neighborhood Life Sciences Tour, where we actually got on a bus, we went over to Cambridge, we looked at a couple different buildings with some industry experts, then we actually went over to our own building at 645 Summer, took people inside the building so they could see the lab. We went up on the roof and looked at the mechanical equipment so people could hear what it sounds like, and really gave an opportunity for people to see this up close. And I think that was a great step sort of in that education process. But generally what we've been telling people to get comfortable about our commitment to be BSL2 at this building is really substantiated by three things. First of all, as a retrofit of a building, we simply cannot design this building to handle any sort of heavier use than BSL2. It's just not really possible within the confines of an existing building. The second point is there's a very strong distinction between commercial lab buildings and institutional lab buildings. Commercial lab buildings like what we're talking about at 745 are all BSL2 or lower, and the only BSL 3 or 4 buildings in the city of Boston that exist are either associated with hospitals or higher education. So there's really a big distinction here. And then the last thing I will say is that we're not actually aware of any tenants in the Boston market who have ever asked for or who are currently looking for anything above BSL2 space. And I think the last thing is just that if someone were to ever want to do a higher risk science, which again wouldn't be able to be accommodated in this building, but theoretically if it was, they would need to go through a separate permitting process, which is overseen by the Boston Public Health Commission and involves a community process and an advisory board. So that's sort of the outline of how we've been getting people comfortable. But for the avoidance of any doubt, we're committed to BSL2 at this building or lower. On Atlantic Avenue, this is something that we've talked with the community pretty extensively about. The transformer vault would customarily be located in a new building, probably on the second floor, but because it's an existing building, it doesn't have the floor clear heights required by the code to accommodate the transformer vault. And because it needs multiple points of egress and access, and the utility actually requires easy access to the vault, it has to be located on the side of a building. But in response to the concerns about activation, we plan to have operable windows on that side, and we're going to work with local partners either on a public art installation, historical interpretive signage, or hopefully something that's even a little bit interactive to really bring some activity to that edge. We're also planning to install additional lighting to keep it active and light and transparent during off hours, so people are comfortable walking along that side of the building.
Great, thank you. Any additional questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsberg?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much, and good luck with the renovations.
Thank you.
Okay, so that concludes all the items on our agenda today. We are going to table the director's updates next month. So with that, I need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I move we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Lanspark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next month.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.